Ethan Caldwell's boots crunched on the gravel as he stared at the sagging farmhouse, its roof patched with mismatched tin like a beggar's coat. The real estate agent's truck peeled away, leaving him alone with the keys that felt heavier than his old rucksack from service days. From the porch of the neighboring spread, a cluster of locals leaned on their fence, their chuckles slicing the air like dull knives. "Big Bad Seal inherits a pile of rot," Harlan Tate bellowed, his voice gravelly from years of tobacco fields. Harlan, broad as a barn door and owner of half the county's best acres, spat into the dust. "Your uncle was a fool, Caldwell, and now you're the punchline. That heap ain't worth the taxes." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he turned the key in the rusted lock without a word. The door groaned open, revealing shadows thick with neglect. Laughter swelled behind him. 5 men, faces weathered by sun and spite, watching his every move like hawks on a lame rabbit. If this tale's got you leaning in already, smash that subscribe button, drop a like, share with a friend, and comment below where you're watching from. Let's see those flags from around the world. Inside, the air hung heavy with the scent of damp wood and forgotten time. Ethan flicked on a lantern, its weak beam cutting through motes that danced like ghosts. The living room sagged under layers of dust. A threadbare sofa, stacks of yellowed newspapers from decades past, and shelves groaning with rusted tools. His uncle, Elias Hawthorne, had vanished from these parts 20 years back, leaving whispers of eccentricity. No family ties beyond a faded will that named Ethan sole heir, a surprise since they'd barely spoken. He dropped his duffel by the stairs, muscles coiling from habit. 12 years as a SEAL had forged him into steel, missions in shadowed valleys, decisions sharper than blades. But stateside, bills piled like sandbags. The VA checks stretched thin, jobs slipped away when bosses eyed his distant stare. This inheritance was his reset, or so he'd hoped. Harlan's mockery echoed in his skull, fueling the fire low in his gut. Ethan prowled the kitchen next, cabinets hanging askew. Jars of preserves, long turned to sludge, lined the counters. He pried open a drawer, revealing faded ledgers bound in cracked leather. Flipping through, numbers blurred, dates from the 70s, cryptic entries like shipment secured and assay results, prime vein. Geology terms jumped out: quartz, feldspar, traces of lithium. His pulse quickened. Uncle Elias had dabbled in mining claims. The farmhouse sat on 40 acres of scrubland, worthless dirt by all accounts. Footsteps thudded outside. Through the grimy window, Harlan and his crew lingered, beers in hand, trading jabs. "Bet he lasts a week before hightailing it," one muttered loud enough to carry. Ethan gripped the ledger tighter. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Night clamped down fast in rural Kentucky, stars pricking the velvet sky. Ethan rigged a camplight in the parlor, poring over the ledgers by its glow. Maps unfolded across the floorboards, hand-drawn overlays of the property, marked with X's and depths, 200 feet, 450. Notes in Elias's spidery script. Core samples confirm. Keep buried. Buried what? Ethan traced the lines, mind racing. Lithium? That white metal powering the world's gadgets, rarer than gold in the right ground. But why hide it? A loose floorboard snagged his boot. He knelt, pried it up. Beneath lay a metal box, padlocked, edges pitted with rust. Heart hammering, he fetched bolt cutters from his truck. The lock snapped. Inside, a surveyor's report dated 1978. Hawthorne parcel. Estimated reserves exceed 500,000 tons high-grade spodumene ore. Potential value, 120 million at current extraction costs. Ethan's breath caught. The farmhouse wasn't junk, it guarded a fortune sleeping underground. But doubt clawed in. Forgery? Wishful dreaming from a hermit? Harlan's laugh replayed, mocking the dream before it bloomed. Dawn broke grey. Ethan shoveled debris from the back porch, sweat beading despite the chill. Harlan's truck rumbled past, slowing for a gawk. "Fixin' to flip burgers again, soldier boy?" he yelled. Ethan waved him off, but inside, resolve hardened. He needed proof. He drove into town, the pickup rattling over potholes. The county records office squatted in a brick relic downtown, Clark eyeing his fatigue-stained jeans. Hawthorne Place? Elias was odd. Filed claims but never dug. She slid over microfiche. Permits for exploratory drilling abandoned after Elias's sudden departure. No follow-up. Folks figured he lost his mind. Back at the farm, Ethan scouted the acreage. Scrub oaks clawed the hills, soil rocky underfoot. One ridge matched the maps, a depression like a scar. He hacked brush with a machete, revealing an overgrown shaft, capped with weathered planks. A mine entrance? His seal instincts screamed trap, but curiosity pulled harder. Prying the planks, darkness yawned. He rigged a rope ladder from his gear, headlamp piercing the void. Descending, walls gleamed faintly, quartz veins threading stone. At 50 feet, the tunnel widened into a chamber. Core samples lined niches, white crystals flecked with pink. Spodumene, real, but then a scrape above. Rocks tumbled. Ethan froze, beams sweeping up. The entrance framed a silhouette. Harlan's voice boomed down. "Caldwell, what you digging for, fool's gold?" Ethan's grip tightened on the rope. Harlan had followed. Rivalry simmered here. The neighbor coveted expansion, had lowballed Elias years back. Now this. "Get out," Ethan called, voice steady as a rifle shot. Laughter echoed. "This your big plan, chasing ghosts? That land's cursed. Elias knew it, ran off when it turned sour." Footsteps retreated, but unease lingered. Harlan knew more. Surfacing, Ethan sealed the shaft, mind churning. Sell? Fight? The report pegged $120 million, but extraction meant permits, engineers, battles with locals like Harlan. One wrong move, and it'd slip away. Days blurred into labor. Ethan reinforced the roof, wired electrics, turned rot into shelter. Neighbors' jeers thinned, replaced by wary glances. Harlan circled closer, truck idling at the gate one evening. "Heard you're poking holes. Uncle's folly. Sell to me. I'll make it right." Ethan leaned on the fence. "What's your stake, Harlan?" The man's eyes narrowed, a flicker of greed. "This county's mine, yours don't fit." Refusal hung unspoken. Tension coiled tighter. Nights brought dreams, tunnels collapsing, shadows pursuing. Elias's ledgers hid more. Letters to a geologist vanished like the man himself. "Discovery too rich, they come," one read. Who? Ethan essayed a sample himself, kit from an old contact, purity off the charts. Calls to firms buzzed his phone. Interest, but whispers of claim disputes. Harlan's shadow loomed. One storm-lashed afternoon, thunder rumbling like distant artillery, Ethan found the true vault. Beneath the kitchen, a trapdoor disguised as flooring. Descending stone steps, he entered a root cellar expanded into bunker. Crates stamped U.S. Gov surplus, manifests for ore shipments pre-1980 embargo. Elias had stockpiled, foreseen the boom. A wall safe yielded keys from the box. Inside, contracts, assays, a deed amendment burying the claims under federal proxies. $120 million wasn't hype. It was locked wealth, needing only proof to unleash. But footsteps overhead again. Door creaked. Harlan's frame filled the cellar stair. "Knew you'd do it. Elias promised me a cut, time to settle." Ethan faced him, pulse steady. The seal in him assessed, bulk versus precision. "This ends now. Leave." Harlan stepped down, fists clenched. "Or what? You alone, boy." The chamber air thickened, two men sizing legacies amid buried riches. Ethan's mind flashed strategies. Disarm, contain. No blows yet, just the precipice. If you're gripped by Ethan's stand, subscribe now for the twists ahead. Like this video, share the suspense, and comment your guess. What's Harlan's play? Ethan circled left, blocking the safe. Harlan lunged, grapple rough but predictable. Ethan sidestepped, hooked an arm, twisted. Harlan slammed into crates, wood splintering. Samples scattered, crystals glinting like stars. Gasping, Harlan snarled, "You think this stays yours? County knows. Buyer's circle." Ethan pinned him, knee firm. "Tell me everything." Words spilled. Elias partnered with Harlan Young, struck the vein. Greed fractured them. Harlan wanted quick sale. Elias hoarded for fortune. He hid it all. When he left, I waited. Ethan released, Harlan scrambling up. "Fight me fair, or I bury you in courts." Dawn found Ethan wiring a lawyer in Lexington, documents scanned. Harlan's truck vanished that day, but notes piled. Rival claims filed overnight. Weeks ground on. Ethan fortified. Surveys commissioned. Drones mapping veins. Locals shifted. Some offered help. Eyes on jobs. Harlan rallied opposition at town hall, painting Ethan outsider plunderer. Yet proof mounted. First appraisal, $87 million confirmed, climbing with markets. Tension peaked when surveyors unearthed the main deposit. Vast. Pure. Harlan confronted again, backed by suits. We own half. Elias signed. Forgery. Ethan delved ledgers, found the lie. Elias's notes debunked it. Court loomed. Al hearing, judge eyed stacks of evidence. Harlan blustered, but assays silenced him. Ruling. Ethan's claim solid. Harlan's empire cracked. Ethan stood on the ridge, machines humming below. Fortune secured through grit, not gifts. The farmhouse gleamed renewed, a testament. Struggles forged stronger paths. Hit subscribe for more real Edge tales, like if Ethan earned it. Share your wins, comment your location. Ethan gripped the rusted gate tighter, staring at the farmhouse that now stood proud against Les Kansas plains. Dawn light sliced through the horizon, casting long shadows over the fields he'd cleared by hand. Neighbors had laughed at first, old-timers at the diner whispering about the broken soldier chasing ghosts in a pile of splintered wood. But whispers turned to wary glances as the silo rose straight again, the roof patched without a single leak. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow, his calloused hands a map of scars from missions long buried. He wasn't building for show. Survival demanded proof. Inside, the kitchen smelled of fresh pine and coffee brewing on a salvaged stove. He poured a mug, eyes drifting to the faded map on the wall, a relic from his uncle, the farm's original owner. Lines crisscrossed the property, marked with cryptic notes in faded ink. Depth 47 feet, sample pure. Ethan had dismissed it as ramblings of a man who'd spent decades alone. But lately, those marks gnawed at him. Bills piled on the counter, bank notices, seed suppliers demanding payment. The loan officer, Harlan Graves, a slick local with a tie too tight for farm dust, had circled last week, smirking. Seal grit, don't pay debts, Ethan. Sell while you can. Harlan wasn't just a banker. He was kin by marriage to the mayor, and rumors swirled he'd eyed this land for a strip mall development. Ethan had caught him sniffed around the back acres, probing the dry creek bed with a boot. Prime real estate, Harlan had said, voice smooth as oil. Your uncle wasted it. Let me handle the paperwork. Ethan's jaw had clenched. He knew the type, men who profited on others' ruins. But refusing meant isolation. The town watched, waiting for him to crack. That afternoon, Ethan fired up the old tractor, its engine coughing like a reluctant beast. He plowed deeper into the north field, where the soil turned oddly heavy, resisting the blades. Something shifted beneath, a low rumble, then silence. He killed the engine, heart steady but pulse quickening. Stepping down, he knelt, gears sifting dark earth. Flecks glinted under the sun, not quartz, not fool's gold, metallic sheen. He pocketed a sample, mind racing through Uncle's journals. Anomaly confirmed. Keep silent. Dusk fell fast. Ethan sat at the scarred oak table, journal open under lamplight. Pages chronicled years of digging, nights with a lantern, assays sent to labs under false names. Value exceeds dreams, one entry read. Fortune in the veins. But why hide it? Uncle's letters hinted at threats. Corporate scouts in the 80s. Offers rejected. Shadows lingering. Ethan traced the map. The farmhouse sat atop it all, a junk heap guarding riches. A knock shattered the quiet. Harlan stood on the porch, flanked by two men in suits, clipboards in hand. Evening, Ethan. Mind if we take a look? Bank's got concerns about collateral. Ethan's hand rested near the doorframe, muscles coiled from old instincts. It's my land. State your piece. Harlan stepped closer, eyes gleaming. Overdue payments. We're here to assess. Heard you hit something today. Tractor troubles. The suits exchanged glances, one scribbling notes. Ethan blocked the threshold. Fields are leave. Tension thickened the air. Harlan leaned in, voice low. Don't play hero. This town's small. Secrets don't stay buried. He gestured to the suits. Geologists, courtesy of the bank. Let's dig. Ethan's mind flashed to the sample in his pocket. Harlan's push felt too timed, too eager. Tomorrow, he said flatly. Sun's down. They retreated, but not before Harlan's parting shot. Tick-tock, soldier. Foreclosure's coming. Sleep evaded him. Ethan paced the creaking floors, flashlight probing the cellar. Cobwebs draped rusted tools, crates labeled assays. He pried one open, glass vials of soil, labels stamped with lab insignias from Denver. Purity levels off the charts, rare earth elements, the kind powering tomorrow's tech. Lithium veins, neodymium deposits, buried treasure in a forgotten corner of Kansas. Uncle had mapped a motherlode worth fortunes, but silenced it to protect the land from vultures. Dawn brought Harlan back, this time with machinery. A backhoe idled on the road, crew waiting. Ethan met them at the gate, shotgun propped casual-like against the post, not loaded, but the message clear. No trespassing. Harlan's face twisted, feigning concern. Ethan, you're digging your own grave. Bank's foreclosing Monday. The suits murmured, one pulling out a phone. Ethan felt the noose tightening, psychological siege, wearing him down. He'd faced worse in shadowed ops overseas, but this was home soil, stakes personal. Call your bluff, he replied. Voice even. He tossed the soil sample at Harlan's feet. Test it yourself, but touch my land, and you'll regret. Harlan scooped it up, eyes widening fractionally. What's this? But he knew. The geologist snatched it, nodding furiously. Whispers erupted. Ethan stood firm, the farmhouse at his back, a fortress forged from junk. Days blurred into a standoff. Ethan worked nights, hauling equipment from salvage yards, shoring up the cellar into a makeshift lab. He cross-referenced Uncle's data with online assays, numbers climbing. Deposits valued at $120 million minimum. Enough to clear debts, rebuild, vanish the mockers. But Harlan escalated. Town meetings buzzed with safety concerns. Sheriff's deputy cruised by hourly. One storm-lashed evening, Ethan spotted lights piercing the rain. Harlan's truck parked at the creek. He slipped out, boots silent in mud, closing distance like a ghost. Harlan knelt, probing with a handheld scanner, greed etched in his profile. Jackpot, he muttered to a companion. Ethan's shadow fell long. Mine. Harlan spun, composure cracking. This proves it. Bank owns the mineral rights, standard clause. Lie. Ethan had pored over deeds. Uncle severed them, read the e-print. Harlan rose, rain streaming. Doesn't matter. Sell to us or lose it all. Psychological duel peaked. Ethan saw the desperation. Harlan's polished life built on shaky loans, this discovery his salvation. Walk away, Ethan warned, or I expose your scouting. Harlan laughed, brittle. Expose me? You're the fool clinging to ruins. But doubt flickered. He retreated into the night, truck tires spinning gravel. Ethan returned to the farmhouse, resolve hardening. He contacted a discreet appraiser in Wichita, sample couriered under alias. Report arrived encrypted. Confirmed. $720 million vein, expandable, but extraction meant partners' scrutiny. Harlan's web tightened daily. Hit subscribe if Ethan's stand has you hooked, like for underdog grit, share with a friend facing odds, and comment where you're tuning in from tonight. Weeks ground on. Ethan fortified, solar panels hummed on the roof, well dug deeper for independence. Town talk shifted, awe mixed with envy. Harlan's moves grew frantic, anonymous calls pressuring, take the offer. Ethan ignored, plotting his play. Then the assay firm's CEO called personally. Mr. Hale, this is unprecedented. We'd like to partner, discreetly. Ethan paced the kitchen, map spread. Freedom dangled, but trust was scarce. Harlan burst in unannounced that afternoon, face ashen. They know developers circling. Sell now or they'll bury you in lawsuits. Ethan faced him, calm steel. You're done. He slid over the severed mineral deed, notarized copy. Harlan scanned it, color draining. How? Uncle's foresight, buried in probate files. The banker crumpled slightly. I just wanted a piece. Complex man, debts to the mayor, family pressures twisting ambition into obsession. Ethan nodded once. "The honest work." Harlan left without fight, tail between legs. Ethan stood alone, farmhouse humming with potential. The secret unfolded not in explosion but quiet victory, grit unearthing worth. But shadows lingered. A corporate jet buzzed overhead next day, circling low. The Vane's whisper had spread. Ethan's war wasn't over. He reinforced the gate, eyes on the horizon. True paths demanded vigilance. Rumors lingered. A corporate jet buzzed overhead the next day, circling low. The Vane's whisper had spread. Ethan's war wasn't over. He reinforced the gate, eyes on the horizon. True paths demanded vigilance. By dusk, the first visitors arrived, not in suits, but in dusty pickups, locals with sidelong glances and probing questions. "Heard you struck something big out here, Ethan? Thinking of selling?" one asked, leaning on the fence like he owned the view. Ethan nodded curtly, said nothing. Words were weapons now. He watched them drive off, tails kicking gravel. Sleep came fitful that night, pistol under the pillow, ears tuned to every creak. Dawn brought the suits. A sleek black SUV pulled up at precisely 8 a.m., logo gleaming, Apex Minerals. Two men stepped out, polished shoes on cracked earth, flanked by a geologist in khakis, clipboard in hand. The lead, Victor Hale, extended a manicured hand. "Mr. Harlan, we're prepared to make an offer. Your property sits on what could be the richest lode this side of the Rockies. 120 million wired today." Ethan's grip was iron. He met Hale's eyes, saw the calculation there, the predator sizing prey. "Appreciate the drive," Ethan replied, "but it's not for sale." Hale smiled, thin as a blade. "Everything has a price. Think of your neighbors. Jobs, progress." They toured the site under Ethan's watchful eye, the geologist muttering about assays and tonnage. Ethan had done his homework, nights poring over maps, samples tested in a quiet lab 2 counties over. The vein wasn't just rare earth. It pulsed with untapped promise, enough to reshape legacies. But handing it over felt like surrender. The seal in him recoiled. They left cards, promises of better offers. Ethan burned them in the fire pit that evening, flames dancing shadows across the farmhouse walls. Whispers turned to pressure. Fences were cut overnight. Subtle, no alarms tripped. Tools vanished from the shed. Locals avoided his gaze at the diner, murmurs trailing him like smoke. "Soldiers holding out," one said. "Greedy, after all that junk he got." Ethan adapted. Motion sensors now ringed the perimeter, wired to his phone. He trained binoculars on distant ridges, spotting watchers in unmarked cars. A letter arrived next, legal notice from Apex, claiming easement rights from some forgotten deed, forged, he suspected. He countered with a private investigator, an old platoon mate who dug up dirt. Hale's history of lowball acquisitions, communities left hollow. Weeks blurred into a siege. Corporate drones hummed at night, mapping from above. Ethan shot one down with a slingshot, precise, non-lethal. Watched it plummet into the creek. Hale called personally then, "You're making enemies, Harlan. Walk away, Rich." Ethan's voice stayed even. "I've faced worse than paperwork and flyboys." Isolation gnawed. Meals alone, echoes in empty rooms. Memories surfaced. Desert ops. Brothers lost to shadows. This farm, this vein, was his anchor now. He fortified. Solar panels for power. A well for independence. No more grid ties. He essayed more cores himself, confirming the strike's depth. Value climbed in his mind, not dollars but control. The turning point came under a harvest moon. Headlights pierced the dark. 3 vehicles, engines cutting as they blocked the gate. Hale emerged with enforcers, not lawyers this time. "Last chance," he called. Ethan stood silhouetted, shotgun loose in hands. Legal, loaded with rock salt. "You've got your answer." Tension coiled. One enforcer stepped forward, tool glinting. Ethan moved first. Flashbang from his kit popped bright, disorienting them. They retreated, cursing the night. Dawn brought sirens. County sheriff, tipped by Ethan's recorder hidden in the brush. Assault charges filed. Apex spun it. Publicity nightmare. Hale's stock dipped. Ethan didn't gloat. He lawyered up proper. a firm specializing in resource rights. Negotiations shifted. Not capitulation, but leverage. Months ground on. Court battles, expert testimonies. Ethan testified calm, facts like bullets, surveys, histories, his claim ironclad. The judge ruled in his favor. Easement invalid, trespasses documented. Apex blinked first. New offer, $200 million, plus royalties on extraction. But Ethan pushed harder. He partnered with a co-op of locals, small miners, families who'd mocked him once. Together, they formed Harlan Vein Collective, sustainable digs, community stakes. Apex bought in as minority holder, terms Ethan dictated. The farmhouse transformed. Crews arrived, not invaders but allies. Solar arrays gleamed. The junk heap became headquarters, walls lined with monitors tracking yields. Ethan walked the site daily, overseeing without micromanaging. Mockers returned, hats in hand. Didn't see it coming, one admitted over coffee. Ethan shrugged. Neither did I. Wealth flowed steady, not flashy. He fixed the roof, planted orchards on cleared acres, sent checks home, quiet aid to kin struggling like he had. No foundations, no fanfare, just results. The vein yielded secrets deeper still, alloys for clean tech, powering futures without chains. One evening, as combines hummed in adjacent fields, Ethan sat on the porch. Horizon clear, no jets, no shadows. A letter from his old CO arrived. Heard about the farm? Proud, son. He folded it away, smiled faint. Wars ended not with glory, but endurance. The seal rose again, not in battle but in building. Years later, the collective thrived. Ethan mentored young vets, turning junk plots into stakes. Mockery faded to respect. The $120 million secret, it birthed more. Freedom, roots, a path carved his way. Vigilance held, true paths endured. If this story gripped you from start to ish, smash that like button, subscribe for more cinematic tales, share with a friend who needs inspiration, and drop a comment. Where are you watching from today? The farmhouse stood tall against twilight, a testament etched in earth and will. Ethan Harlan had claimed his ground, and in that quiet victory peace ally settled.